This is Getting Past It, where real life meets real growth. I'm JR, and in 10 minutes or less, we're tackling thoughts, habits, and truths that hold us back. Let's get past it together. What's going on out there, beautiful people? It's your boy JR, host of Getting Past It, the podcast. We're going to do something a little bit different this time around. It's story time with JR. And on my very first episode of the podcast, Nana's Lessons, we talked about some of the things I learned from her. And way back then, I would tell you how, I explained how I would later come back and tell you how some of those lessons helped me get through an extremely difficult situation. And so what I want to talk about is being a father in a helpless situation. Watching your kid go through something that you have no control over and just having to be there and deal with it and how difficult that can be. And so before I jump into this story, I did get permission from my son to tell this story because this is something that was extremely personal to him, something that he went through. And while I was there with him, he was the one that went through it. And I went through something as well, both me and my wife, but it was nowhere near, the experience that he had, being the one with the actual condition or ailment that he had to get past. And so I want to harken back to about a year ago yesterday. Let's rewind a little bit more. October 1st of 2024. My apologies. My son wasn't feeling well. He came home not feeling good, saying his throat hurt and all those things. And so we took him to urgent care just to get a checkup, see what was going on, have them just give them a look over. And during that visit, they gave him some tests. They checked him for strep throat, mono, and it came back that he had mono. Now, at the same time, we were alerted that there was mono going around the school. My son used to bite his fingernails like his dad, something I had to get past. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, shook somebody's hand who had it, high-five somebody, whatever the case may be, and then he's biting his nails and he's ingesting all those germs and bacteria, whatever the case may be. And so it went from, being mono on the first visit to him just consistently not feeling well. And, you just got to work through the mono process. And so he went from his throat bothering him to having consistent headaches and not really feeling well. So we took him back to urgent care, and they just said, you just got to fight through it. It continued to progressively get worse. And so we eventually took him to the ER. We took him to the ER. Basically what they told us in that moment was, they needed to give him some fluids. He was dehydrated. Because at this point he was saying he couldn't swallow anything. He would go to swallow, like drink, and it would come out of his nose. So they gave him an IV, told us just give him regular pain medication for the headaches, and just to work through that process. Gave it, a little bit more time. Still no change. Headache still progressively getting worse. So took him back to the ER. And I can remember I had to go out of town for work. So I'm out of town for work. And I remember my wife calling me, telling me he's not getting any better. We're going to have to go back to the hospital. It's getting worse. I need you to come home. So I left my meeting early, flew home. We take him back to the hospital. They give him more fluids, give him like a little steroid pack that they said they thought might help. Send us back home. Fast forward to October 20th of 2024. Me and my wife are getting ready to go look for a couch. We go in this room just to give him some instructions about what we need him to do around the house while we're gone. walk in his room and he's in his bed and he's visibly shaking, which was the first thing that was alarming. And so I asked him what's wrong with him. He told me he's cold. I said, hey, get up and put on some clothes. You're laying in the bed, you don't have a shirt on, or you're in the bed in just your boxers. If you're cold, put on some clothes. And for any parent out there, when your kid's looking at you in a way that's non-responsive, but you can look at them and you can tell, like, they're just not there. There's something going on. There's more that's happening that maybe you don't understand. And that's the space we were in, because we were looking at him like, he don't look right. And so I told him to stand up, and he's visibly trembling to the point he damn near couldn't stand on his own. And so me and my wife look at each other and we're like, we need to take him back to the emergency room. We need to go now. So carry him to the vehicle, drive back to the emergency room. He can't get out the car. He's not responding. His eyes are open, but he's just not responding to us. So go get a wheelchair, put him in a wheelchair, wheel him in the hospital. I'm at the front desk talking to the admittance nurse, or person at the desk, and my wife's like, I think he's about to throw up. So I tell her to take my place, let me take him to the bathroom. So we're walking across the hospital floor. He starts to vomit all over the place. Finally get him in the bathroom. Now he goes in the bathroom, and now he's just in there. He's not moving. He's not responding. I'm telling him, hey, you got to get up. The nurse is in the hallway waiting for you. And he just won't do anything. And I'm not understanding it at all. And so finally get him moving, get him in the wheelchair. They wheel him in the back. They tell us both parents can't go in the back. So my wife goes with him. So I'm sitting in the front. And I guess during this time while they're in the back, he starts to be a little more aggressive and expressive. And my son's never been a violent kid. He's never threatened his mother, made any, comments of wanting to do anything. And so she calls my phone and she's like, there is something extremely wrong. I need you to come back here. She had taken him to the bathroom. He was doing the same thing where he wasn't responding, wasn't, getting up, wasn't listening. Told her, said some things to her. So I get in there and immediately I'm in dad protective mode, or husband protective mode. And I'm looking at my son like, dude, when she told me what he said to her, I'm thinking to myself like, you know better and you know me. We about to have an issue. I'm so glad that cooler heads prevailed and, we got past that. And so they take them, they run some tests, they want to send them home. My wife's like, you're not sending my child home. I need y'all to figure out what's going on with him. So they call over to their partner hospital, where they have the pediatric unit. They ask them to run some tests, check his salt levels and different things like that. Salt levels are extremely low. So then they tell them to transfer him from where he currently was to their hospital. Instead of sending us by ambulance, they let us, put him back in the car and drive there. We get there, the hospital's like, they shouldn't have let you drive here with them. That's crazy. And so, we're talking to them, we're telling them the symptoms, and one of my cousins had told me to ask them to check him for bacterial meningitis. So as we're talking to the doctor, hey, can you check for bacterial meningitis? I told a family member the symptoms, and, they said that all of those symptoms are consistent with that. Doctor looks at us and basically says, with the amount of time that your child has been sick, if he had bacterial meningitis, he would be dead. So now me and my wife are looking at each other like, what is going on?